I'm Natasha, your host for today. If you are new here, let me tell you that we upload a brand new English learning video every single day to help you improve your English faster and more confidently. In today's Advanced Speaking Masterclass, you will not only improve your English listening skills, but also your English speaking fluency, your confidence, and your ability to express ideas naturally in real conversations. Today's lesson is all about helping you speak English at an advanced level, using powerful, natural, everyday phrases that fluent speakers use without thinking. We are going to explore essential expressions, daily life communication patterns, real conversational examples, and step-by-step speaking practice that will train your brain to think and respond in English more easily. Throughout this episode, I'll guide you through practical speaking exercises, repetition practice, deeper explanations of fluent sentence structures, and real-world examples that will make your English sound smooth, confident, and natural. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to use advanced English phrases in daily life, how to express your thoughts clearly, how to respond fast in conversations, and how to speak with real fluency. I'll also share some helpful habits and speaking techniques you can use every day to improve your spoken English and sound more like a natural speaker over time. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon if you want more helpful English learning episodes like this. So, relax, get comfortable, and let's get started. Hello again. Thank you for being here with me today as we begin this advanced English speaking masterclass together. I want you to feel relaxed, present, and fully ready to learn in a natural way. In this lesson, I will be speaking slowly but clearly, using natural, advanced English expressions that fluent speakers use in everyday life, and guiding you through practice moments so you can repeat after me in your own space. You may be watching this video at home, on a bus, during a break, or while doing something else, but wherever you are, let this moment be a gentle reminder that every small step you take in English brings you closer to fluency. Today, we are going to build a strong foundation in advanced spoken English by learning phrases you can use in daily life, phrases that help you sound confident, expressive, and natural when you speak. Many learners memorize vocabulary but still feel stuck when it's time to speak, because they don't have natural sentence patterns ready in their mind. So, in this masterclass, I'll help you develop the ability to think in English using advanced expressions that fit into real-life conversations. Let's begin with one of the most useful advanced English features: expressing opinions in a clear, natural way. In everyday conversations, fluent speakers rarely say simple sentences like, "I think." Instead, they use a variety of richer expressions that show nuance and confidence. Listen to these phrases and repeat them slowly in your mind. From my perspective, the way I see it, to be completely honest, if I'm being really clear about it, in my experience, these phrases help you sound thoughtful and fluent, and they give your listener confidence that you can express complex ideas. Imagine you are at work and someone asks you, "What do you think about this new project?" Instead of repeating the same basic phrase, you could say, "From my perspective, the project has a lot of potential, but we need to plan the timeline more carefully." This small change makes you sound more advanced, more natural, and more confident. Now try repeating this pattern with me as a speaking exercise. Think of a simple topic like online learning, traveling, or cooking, and start your sentence with "in my experience." For example, in my experience, online learning becomes much easier when you follow a daily routine. Try saying your own sentence now. Breathe and speak slowly. Another powerful part of advanced English is expressing agreement or disagreement politely. In real conversations, you don't always fully agree with someone, and you need soft, natural expressions to share your thoughts in a respectful way. Instead of saying, "I don't agree," fluent speakers often say, "I see your point, but I have a slightly different perspective." Or, "I understand what you mean, although I'm not completely convinced." Or, "That's an interesting idea, but I'm not sure I feel the same way." These phrases let you express disagreement without sounding rude or harsh. Practice with me now. Imagine someone gives you an opinion you don't completely agree with. Now say softly, "I see your point, but I have a different perspective." Now let's explore advanced English for describing daily situations. Daily life conversations are where you need fluent, flexible language the most. When something small happens in your day, a basic learner might say, "I was busy today," or "I had a problem." But an advanced speaker uses richer expressions like, "Today was a lot more demanding than I expected," or "I ran into a few unexpected issues earlier," or "My schedule was packed from the moment I woke up." Notice how these phrases create a fuller, more natural picture of your day. Take a moment and think of how your day has been so far. Then try expressing it with more advanced wording. For example, "This morning felt unusually stressful, but I managed to stay on track." Now try to create one sentence of your own. Advanced English is also about describing emotions and reactions with nuance. Instead of saying "I was happy," fluent speakers say "I was genuinely excited about it," or "It lifted my mood instantly." Instead of saying "I was angry," they might say, "It really pushed my patience to the limit." Instead of saying "I was confused," they say, "I wasn't entirely sure what was going on." These phrases sound natural, mature, and expressive. Try practicing now. Choose an emotion and say it in an advanced way. For example, "I wasn't entirely sure how to respond at first, but then everything became clear." Let's move into one of the most useful advanced skills: responding naturally in conversations. When you're speaking English, sometimes you need a moment to think. Fluent speakers use expressions that give them time to form ideas while still sounding natural. They say things like, "Let me think about that for a second." "That's a really good question." "Well, it depends on the situation." If I had to explain it simply, these phrases help you stay confident during conversations and prevent awkward silence. Let's practice. Imagine someone asks you, "How can I improve my English quickly?" Instead of rushing, pause and say, "Well, it depends on what your goals are," and continue speaking smoothly. Now imagine a real-life conversation situation. You are talking to a friend about your plans for the week. You want to sound natural and fluent. You could say, "I'm planning to catch up on some work," and then, "I might take a short break toward the weekend to recharge a little." Notice how this feels more advanced than simply saying, "I will work this week and rest on the weekend." Fluency is about clarity, rhythm, and expression. Try practicing now. Think about your plans and describe them with richer language. For example, I'm hoping to spend some quality time with my family and also focus on a few personal goals I've been putting off. Now let's do a short guided speaking exercise. I'll say a simple idea and you transform it into an advanced version in your mind. I'm tired. Now transform it. You might say, I'm feeling completely drained today. Another one, I'm worried. Transform it into something like, I'm feeling a bit uneasy about the situation. Another one, I'm excited. Try turning it into, I'm genuinely looking forward to it. This exercise helps your brain build the habit of choosing more expressive language automatically. You're doing great so far. This is how fluency grows, slowly, naturally, with repeated exposure and practice. Don't worry about perfection. Advanced English is not about sounding complicated. It's about sounding clear, confident, and expressive. And every time you pause and practice, you become stronger and more flexible in your speaking. As we continue this masterclass, let's move into another essential area of advanced English that many learners struggle with: expressing subtle differences in meaning. When you reach higher levels of English, you start to understand that small changes in wording create big changes in tone. For example, saying, I don't like it, sounds very direct, while saying, I'm not really a fan of it, sounds softer and more natural. Or instead of saying, I disagree, you can say, I'm not entirely sure I agree with that. These tiny adjustments help you sound more fluent, more polite, and more confident in your communication. One powerful technique to improve your fluency is learning how to expand your sentences. Advanced speakers don't just speak in short, basic lines. They combine ideas smoothly. For example, instead of saying, I went to the store, I bought bread, I came home, you might say, I went to the store earlier today, picked up some fresh bread, and came home to make a quick breakfast. This kind of sentence flow makes your speech sound connected and natural. Try practicing this now. Think of 3 simple actions you did today and combine them into one smooth sentence. For example, I woke up early, checked my messages, and prepared for the day ahead. Say yours now, slowly and confidently. Another important part of advanced English is learning how to introduce ideas in a natural way. Fluent speakers use expressions like, to give you an idea, let me explain it this way. Another thing worth mentioning is, what I mean by that is. These phrases help you guide your listener and make your speaking more organized and professional. Imagine someone asks you how to stay motivated while learning English. You could reply, to give you an idea, one thing that always helps me is creating a routine I can actually enjoy. Try creating your own example by starting a sentence with, another thing worth mentioning is, let's explore advanced connectors now. Connectors help your sentences flow smoothly and make your speech sound intelligent and structured. Words like, however, nevertheless, on the other hand, as a result, consequently, in contrast, and, for instance, are commonly used by fluent speakers. Instead of speaking in short, disconnected ideas, you can use these connectors to build longer and more advanced explanations. For example, I wanted to study last night. However, I was feeling too tired to focus, so I decided to rest instead. Try practicing with me now. Take a simple idea and expand it using however. For example, I wanted to go for a walk. However, it started raining. Now create your own sentence in your mind. Another powerful way to sound fluent is by asking natural questions. Advanced speakers don't always stick to basic questions like, "What do you do?" or "Where are you from?" They use more expressive patterns such as, "What have you been up to lately? How are things going on your end? Is there anything interesting happening in your life these days?" These questions open the door to deeper, more engaging conversations. Imagine you meet a friend after some time. Instead of saying, "How are you?" try asking, "So, what's been going on with you recently?" Practice this question with me now, saying it gently and naturally. Let's move into one of the most important speaking techniques, adding detail. Many learners speak in very short sentences because they're afraid of making mistakes. But when you add a little detail, you sound immediately more fluent. Instead of saying, "I went to work," you can say, "I went to work earlier today, and it turned out to be a really productive morning." Instead of saying, "I studied English," you can say, "I studied English for a while today, focusing on my listening skills and new vocabulary." Adding detail makes your speech richer without making it complicated. Think of something simple you did today and describe it with extra detail. For example, "I had lunch and it was surprisingly delicious, even though it was something very simple." Another powerful area to focus on is showing curiosity during conversations. Fluent speakers stay engaged by asking follow-up questions like, "Really? What happened after that? That sounds interesting. Tell me more. How did you feel about that?" These small reactions show that you're involved in the conversation, and they keep the interaction flowing naturally. Let's practice now. Imagine someone tells you, "I changed my job recently." A basic reply might be, "Oh, okay." But an advanced and more natural response would be, "Really? That sounds like a big change. How are you feeling about it so far?" Say this with me slowly. Feel the rhythm of natural conversation. Now, let's talk about showing hesitation in a fluent way. Everyone hesitates while speaking, even native speakers. The difference is that native speakers use natural fillers like, "Actually," "basically," "you know," "let me think," "to be honest," and "I guess." Instead of repeating or "ah." These fillers give you time to think without breaking the flow. Imagine someone asks you a difficult question. You can reply with, "Well, to be honest, it's something I've been thinking about for a while." This sounds calm, confident, and natural. Practice this now by answering the question, "What is something you want to improve about your English?" Begin your answer by saying, "Well, to be honest." Let's explore advanced expressions for giving suggestions. Instead of saying, "You should," fluent speakers often say, "You might want to consider." It could be helpful if you. One thing that really works for many people is, "You may find it useful too." These expressions sound soft, supportive, and fluent. Imagine you are giving advice to a friend who wants to improve their speaking. Instead of saying, "You should practice every day," you can say, "You might want to consider practicing a little bit every day, even if it's just for 10 minutes. Try creating your own sentence now, starting with, "It could be helpful if you." Now let's do another guided speaking practice. I'll give you a basic sentence, and you upgrade it in your mind using more advanced language. I don't know. You can turn it into, I'm not entirely sure. I'm busy. You can transform it into, I'm a bit overloaded with things at the moment. I'm happy. You might say, I'm really pleased about it. Practicing these transformations trains your brain to choose more natural, advanced expressions automatically during conversations. Let's continue with a simple, confidence-building moment. Many learners feel nervous when speaking English because they fear judgment or mistakes. But fluency grows through practice, small improvements, and consistent exposure. Even the most advanced speakers make mistakes sometimes. So take a deep breath with me. Remind yourself that you are learning, improving, and becoming stronger every day. The fact that you are here, practicing advanced English, shows your commitment and dedication, and that dedication will take you far. As we move forward in this Fluency Masterclass, let's focus on another essential skill for advanced English speakers: expressing clarity and precision. Many learners often feel that they know the vocabulary, but struggle to express things clearly, especially when explaining something complex. Fluent speakers often use phrases like, what I'm trying to say is, or let me put it another way, or to clarify my point. These expressions help you guide your listener and make sure your ideas are understood. Imagine you are explaining a work-related situation and you feel your listener doesn't fully understand. Instead of repeating the same words, you can say, let me put it another way. Our goal is to make the process smoother for everyone. This small phrase makes your explanation feel organized and advanced. Another key element of advanced English is the ability to describe things in layers. Instead of giving short answers, fluent speakers add background information, personal interpretation, and small details. For example, instead of saying, the meeting was good, you could say, the meeting went surprisingly well, and we managed to cover all the important points without feeling rushed. Notice how this sounds more complete and expressive. Try practicing this now with a simple topic like your morning routine. You can say, my morning was quite refreshing today because I had enough time to prepare myself without feeling stressed. Take a moment and try forming a similar sentence about your own morning. Let's now explore the art of storytelling in English, which is an advanced skill and extremely useful in daily life conversations. When fluent speakers tell stories, they use transitions such as at first, suddenly, after a while, eventually, to my surprise, and looking back. These transitions create a natural flow and keep the listener engaged. Imagine telling a story about your day. You could say, at first, I thought it was going to be a calm day, but suddenly, everything became extremely busy. This adds rhythm to your storytelling and makes your English sound natural and lively. Try telling a small story in your mind, maybe something that happened recently, and include at least one transition, like eventually or to my surprise. Let's practice describing past experiences in an advanced way. Instead of saying, I learned something, a fluent speaker might say, I realized something important during that moment. Instead of saying, I was surprised, you could say, it caught me completely off guard. And instead of saying, I had a good time, you could say, I genuinely enjoyed every moment of it. Try transforming a sentence now. Take the simple idea, I was confused, and change it to, I wasn't entirely sure what was happening at first. Practicing these transformations helps you develop deeper expression and emotional clarity. Now let's look at advanced expressions for showing understanding. In conversations, it's important to show that you are listening and following the other person's ideas. Fluent speakers use phrases like, I see what you mean, that makes sense, I follow you, I completely understand where you're coming from. These expressions show empathy, understanding, and fluency. Imagine someone tells you they are facing a difficult decision. You can respond with, I completely understand where you're coming from. It can be challenging to choose a right direction. Try saying this slowly now, feeling the softness and natural tone behind the words. Another essential skill is handling misunderstandings politely. It's normal to have moments in conversations where you didn't hear something clearly or you need clarification. Instead of saying, what? Or, I didn't understand, advanced speakers say, sorry, could you say that again more slowly? Or, would you mind repeating that? Or, I didn't quite catch that last part. These natural phrases help you maintain fluency, even when you face difficulty. Try practicing now with me. Softly say, sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Could you repeat it? Now let's explore the topic of showing interest and building connection in conversations. Fluent speakers often use expressions like, that sounds exciting. Wow, really? I'd love to hear more about that. That must have been a great experience. These phrases help you show warmth and involvement. Imagine someone tells you they visited a new country. Instead of saying just nice, you can say, that must have been an amazing experience. What was your favorite part? This type of response makes you sound engaged and advanced. Practice this now by picking a topic someone might talk about and responding with, that must have been interesting. Tell me more about it. One more important advanced skill is expressing doubt or uncertainty politely. Fluent speakers often need to be careful when suggesting something they're not completely sure about. They use expressions like, I could be wrong, but, or, it seems to me that, or, as far as I can tell. These phrases soften your statement and show maturity and confidence. For example, you might say, as far as I can tell, you're doing an excellent job with your English practice. Try creating your own sentence starting with, I could be wrong, but let's do another guided transformation exercise. I'll give you a basic sentence, and you turn it into an advanced one in your mind. I forgot. Transform it into, it completely slipped my mind. I'm not sure. Transform it into, I'm not entirely certain about that. I finished my work. You can change it to, I managed to wrap up my work earlier than expected. These small changes make a big difference to how fluent and natural you sound. Now, let's focus on expressing goals and intentions in an advanced way. Instead of saying, I want to improve my English, you can say, I'm aiming to bring my English to a much higher level. Instead of saying, I will study tomorrow, you could say, I plan to spend some time studying tomorrow to stay consistent. Instead of saying, I hope I can speak better, you might say, I'm hoping to build more confidence and fluency as I continue practicing. Try saying this sentence after me. I'm aiming to become more confident and natural every time I speak English. Another powerful technique for fluency improvement is describing possibilities and alternatives. Fluent speakers use expressions like, it's possible that, or there's a chance that, or another option could be. These expressions help you explain different choices or ideas in a smooth, advanced way. For instance, you could say, another option could be to practice speaking for 10 minutes every morning. Try creating your own example now, beginning with, it's possible that. Let's dive deeper into expressing reasons and explanations naturally. Instead of saying, because I was busy, you could say, since my schedule was full today, I couldn't manage to find extra time. Or instead of saying, I didn't go because I was tired, you might say, I didn't end up going because I felt too exhausted to enjoy it. These advanced structures make your explanations sound fluent and detailed. Try practicing now by explaining something simple in a more advanced way. For example, I didn't study earlier because I had to take care of something urgent. Let's continue. Let's take a moment for another confidence exercise. I want you to remind yourself that fluency grows from consistent effort, even when progress feels slow. Every time you practice speaking, listen to natural English or repeat advanced expressions, your brain becomes more familiar with the patterns of fluent speech. You don't need to sound perfect. You just need to keep going. Believe in the progress you're making. You are building not only vocabulary, but rhythm, confidence, and natural expression. Trust the process and trust yourself. As we continue this advanced English speaking masterclass, let's now focus on the language fluent speakers use when they describe their thoughts, reflections, and internal processes. This is one of the most important aspects of sounding natural, because advanced speakers constantly use reflective expressions that show depth and awareness. Instead of simply saying, I think, they often say, I've been thinking about this lately, or something that's been on my mind is, or I've been reflecting on this, and I realized. These expressions allow you to express complex thoughts in a natural, conversational way. Try practicing this now by thinking of a topic, maybe learning English, work, or personal goals, and start your sentence with, something I've been thinking about lately is. Say it softly to yourself and feel how natural it sounds. Another important skill is expressing subtle emotions with nuance. Fluent speakers rarely use very basic emotional vocabulary. Instead of saying, I'm sad, they might say, I've been feeling a little low today. Instead of saying, I'm nervous, they might say, I'm feeling a bit on edge about this. Instead of saying, I'm excited, they could say, I'm really looking forward to this experience. These emotional expressions make your English sound mature and fluent. Take a moment now and think about how you're feeling today. Try to express it in a more advanced way. For example, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed today, but I'm managing everything step by step. Now let's move deeper into conversational rhythm, which is a strong indicator of fluency. Fluent speakers adjust their pace, tone, and structure based on the mood of the conversation. When they want to highlight something important, they slow down. When something is casual, they speak more freely. They also use natural sentence starters like, actually, honestly, to tell you the truth. The funny thing is, these small openings help create a natural conversational rhythm. Try practicing now by starting a simple sentence with, honestly. followed by something true about your day. For example, honestly, I didn't expect today to be as busy as it turned out to be. Another important area of advanced speaking is being able to describe situations in detail without sounding unnatural. Many learners try to add details, but end up making sentences too long or confusing. Fluent speakers keep their sentences clear, even when describing something complex. For example, instead of saying, I had a problem with my project, and then I told my boss, and then he helped me, and then we fixed it, you could say, I ran into an issue with my project earlier, but after discussing it with my manager, we were able to resolve it together. Notice how the sentence flows smoothly and logically. Try practicing this by thinking of a small problem you faced recently and explaining it in a smoother, more structured way. Let's now explore advanced expressions for describing progress and improvement. Instead of saying, I'm improving, fluent speakers say, I can feel myself becoming more comfortable with this. Or, I'm starting to notice real progress. Or, I'm definitely becoming more confident as I practice. These expressions make your language richer and show that you're aware of your own development. Try practicing now by saying, I'm starting to notice real improvements in my English speaking. Another powerful tool for advanced English is using softening expressions to make your speech more polite and natural. Fluent speakers often soften their requests or opinions with expressions like, would you mind if, is it okay if, I was wondering whether, I'm not sure if this makes sense, but. These expressions help you sound respectful and smooth. Imagine you want to ask someone for help. Instead of saying, help me, you can say, I was wondering if you could help me with something for a moment. Practice saying this slowly now. Let's now talk about expressing contrast in a fluent and natural way. When fluent speakers describe two different ideas, they use expressions like, on the one hand, but at the same time, even though, despite that. While it's true that these phrases help you present different sides of a situation clearly. For example, on the one hand, studying alone gives you a lot of freedom, but at the same time, it can feel isolating if you don't practice with others. Try creating your own sentence using on the one hand to express two sides of something in your life. Now let's shift into advanced expressions for describing habits and routines. Instead of saying, I usually wake up early, you might say, I tend to wake up early most days because it helps me stay productive. Instead of saying, I always study at night, you could say, I often find myself studying at night because that's when I feel most focused. These patterns help your speech sound natural and flexible. Try practicing now by describing one of your habits using I tend to. For example, I tend to review new vocabulary at the end of the day. Another useful fluency skill is describing hypothetical situations. Fluent speakers often use phrases like, if I were in your position, if there's one thing I would suggest, in a situation like that, if that were to happen. These expressions help you explain ideas that are not happening now, but could happen in the future. For example, if I were in your position, I would try to practice speaking with a partner regularly. Try saying your own sentence beginning with, if I were in your position. Let's practice expressing future possibilities in a more advanced way. Instead of saying, I might go, fluent speakers say, there's a chance I might go, or I'm considering going, but I'm not sure yet, or I'm open to the idea of going if things work out. These expressions help you sound less rigid and more natural. Think of something you are unsure about and practice saying, I'm considering it, but I haven't decided yet. Now let's focus on another powerful fluency skill: describing expectations. Fluent speakers use expressions like, I didn't expect that to happen, or it turned out better than I expected, or it wasn't what I imagined at first. These expressions help you describe reactions in a clear and advanced way. For example, the conversation turned out to be much more helpful than I expected. Try practicing now by thinking of a moment from your week and saying, it turned out differently than I expected. Another important skill is learning how to give polite refusals, which can be difficult for many learners. Instead of saying, no, I can't, fluent speakers say, I'd love to, but I'm not able to at the moment. Or, I appreciate the offer, but I don't think I can make it. Or, thank you for asking, but I'll have to pass this time. These expressions help you say no politely and respectfully. Try practicing now with the sentence, I really appreciate the invitation, but I'm not able to join today. Let's move further with a short fluency building exercise. I'll say a basic sentence, and you transform it into an advanced one in your mind. I don't have time. You could say, I'm a bit short on time right now. I didn't like it. You could say, it wasn't exactly what I was hoping for. I'm listening. You can transform it into, I'm all ears. These transformations help you sound more expressive and fluent in real conversations. Keep practicing these shifts whenever you can. They will become automatic with time. As we continue building your advanced English fluency, let's move deeper into the language patterns native speakers use when they want to express subtle feelings, deeper thoughts, and complex ideas, without sounding overly formal or robotic. One of the keys to sounding advanced is learning how to express uncertainty, possibility, and nuance in your speech. For example, instead of saying, I don't know, a fluent speaker might say, I'm not entirely sure, but I can try to explain. Instead of saying, maybe, they might say, there's a possibility that, or I'm considering it. These expressions don't just sound natural, they help you express your thoughts more precisely. Another powerful skill is using indirect or softened language when talking about sensitive situations. In English, this is extremely common because it helps maintain politeness and emotional comfort in conversations. Instead of saying something too directly, fluent speakers use softening expressions like, it seems like, it appears that, it looks like you might be, or I get the sense that. These phrases help protect your listener's feelings and allow you to express something gently. For example, if a friend seems upset, you wouldn't say, you look angry. Instead, you might say, it seems like something might be bothering you. Is everything okay? Try practicing this soft style now by saying, it seems like you might need a little break. Let's now explore how fluent speakers describe changes and transitions in their lives. Instead of saying, my life changed, they often say, things have been shifting for me lately. Instead of saying, I started a new job, they might say, I've recently transitioned into a new job. This style sounds smooth and advanced, and It gives listeners a clearer picture of your experience. Think of something that has changed in your life recently, even if it's small, and express it in a more advanced way. For example, I've been gradually adjusting to a busier schedule lately. Another skill that separates advanced speakers from intermediate learners is the ability to express indirect opinions. Instead of saying, it's good or it's bad, fluent speakers often give nuanced views like, it has its strengths, but there are a few things I would change. Or, it's definitely interesting, although I'm still forming my full opinion. These expressions help you sound thoughtful, diplomatic, and confident. Try practicing now by choosing a simple topic, like a movie, a book, or a product, and expressing a nuanced opinion. For example, it was enjoyable overall, although I felt the ending was a bit rushed. Now let's focus on advanced conversational transitions. These are phrases that help you move smoothly from one idea to another, making your speech feel connected and natural. Fluent speakers use phrases like, speaking of that, now that you mention it, that reminds me of, going back to what we were discussing. These transitions give your speech a natural flow and make conversations more engaging. For example, that reminds me of something that happened yesterday. Try practicing now by connecting two simple ideas using speaking of that. Another essential fluency skill is talking about responsibilities and commitments in a natural, advanced way. Instead of saying, I have work to do, fluent speakers might say, I have a few responsibilities I need to take care of. Instead of saying, I'm busy, they might say, I'm juggling quite a lot at the moment. Instead of saying, I can't come, they might say, I'm tied up with something else right now. These expressions are extremely common in professional and social conversations. Practice this now by saying, I'm juggling a few things today, but I'm managing. Let's now explore advanced explanations for preferences and choices. Instead of saying, I like it, fluent speakers might say, I tend to prefer this because, or, I find myself drawn to, or, I usually lean toward. These expressions sound natural and reflective. For example, I usually lean toward quieter places when I want to focus. Try creating your own sentence starting with, I tend to prefer. Now let's look at describing frustrations or challenges without sounding too emotional or negative. Fluent speakers use controlled, balanced language like, it was a bit frustrating at times. I found it a little challenging to keep up. It pushed my patience a bit. These phrases show maturity and calmness, even when describing something difficult. Think of a challenge you faced recently and express it in a soft, advanced way. For example, it was a bit overwhelming at first, but I eventually managed to handle it. Another advanced skill is expressing appreciation and gratitude in a natural way. Instead of saying, thank you, fluent speakers often say, I really appreciate that, or that means a lot to me, or I'm genuinely grateful for your help. These expressions sound warm and sincere. Practice saying, I really appreciate your support, slowly and clearly. Let's explore one more area of advanced fluency, describing progress over time. Fluent speakers rarely say things like, I'm better now, or I improved. Instead, they express progress more naturally with phrases like, I've been progressing slowly but steadily, or I'm beginning to feel more confident with this, or little by little, things are becoming clearer to me. These expressions show growth and self-awareness. Try practicing now by saying, little by little, I'm becoming more fluent every day. Now let's do another guided speaking practice to help your brain instantly convert basic thoughts into advanced expressions. I'll say a simple idea, and you transform it in your mind. I didn't understand. Transform it into, I didn't fully grasp it at first. I'm tired. Transform it into, I'm feeling completely drained today. I'm confused. Transform it into, I'm not entirely sure what's going on. Practicing this technique daily will help you sound more fluent without needing to memorize complicated grammar. As we go deeper, let's explore how fluent speakers describe plans and intentions with more clarity. Instead of saying, I will try, they might say, I'm planning to make an effort, or I'm hoping to focus more on this. If they are unsure, they might say, I haven't made up my mind yet, but I'm considering it. These expressions show a natural balance of confidence and flexibility. Try practicing now by saying, I'm hoping to dedicate more time to speaking practice this week. Another useful area is how fluent speakers give compliments. Instead of saying, good job, they might say, you did a fantastic job with this. Instead of saying, you speak well, they might say, your English sounds incredibly natural. Compliments are a powerful part of communication, and when expressed in a fluent way, they help you build stronger relationships. Practice saying, you're doing an amazing job with your English practice. Now let's focus on how fluent speakers deal with unexpected events. Instead of saying, something happened, they might say, something unexpected came up. Instead of saying, I was surprised, they might say, it caught me completely off guard. These expressions help you communicate naturally about events in your life. Think of a moment recently that surprised you and express it with the phrase, it completely caught me off guard. Let's continue. I want to remind you that fluency is about natural rhythm, expression, and confidence. Every advanced phrase you practice becomes a part of your speaking ability. Even if you don't feel it immediately, keep repeating, keep listening, keep absorbing these patterns. With time, they will become a natural part of your conversations. You are doing incredibly well, and this dedication will continue to move you closer to true English fluency. As we continue this advanced English speaking masterclass, let's now move into a deeper layer of fluent communication, expressing subtle reactions during conversations. In real life, fluent speakers constantly react while listening, using short expressions that show understanding, surprise, agreement, or curiosity. These reactions keep the conversation alive and make you sound truly natural. For example, when someone shares information with you, you might respond with, "Oh, really?" Or, "That's interesting." Or, "I didn't know that." Or, "That makes sense now." These expressions show engagement and help you connect emotionally with the speaker. Let's practice this now. Imagine someone tells you, I just started learning a new skill. You can respond with, Oh, that sounds exciting. How's it going so far? Try saying that slowly and naturally. Another powerful aspect of advanced speaking is expressing personal growth. Fluent speakers often talk about how their thinking has evolved or how their habits have changed. Instead of saying, I'm better now, they might say, I've noticed real progress in myself recently. Instead of saying, I changed my mind. They might say, I've been reconsidering my approach. Instead of saying, I learned something, they might say, I realized something important through this experience. These expressions help you sound reflective and confident. Try practicing this now by saying, I've been gradually improving my speaking confidence over time. Now, let's explore the advanced language used when giving explanations. Fluent speakers rarely jump into the main point immediately. They often introduce their explanation gently with expressions like, the reason I'm saying this is because, or what I mean is, or to give you a clearer picture, or let me break it down. These phrases prepare your listener and make your speech sound structured and thoughtful. For example, if someone asks why you prefer studying in the morning, you could say, to give you a clearer picture, mornings help me concentrate better because everything feels quieter and calmer. Try practicing this by explaining something simple using the reason is because. Let's focus now on expressing admiration or respect for someone in a natural, advanced way. Instead of saying, you're good, fluent speakers often say, I really admire the way you handle things, or I truly respect how dedicated you are, or I'm impressed by your consistency. These expressions sound sincere and warm. Think of someone you appreciate and practice saying, I really admire your dedication. Practicing these expressions will help you communicate more confidently in both personal and professional relationships. Now let's dive into the advanced ways fluent speakers describe uncertainty about the future. Instead of saying, I don't know what will happen, they might say, it's hard to say how things will turn out, or I'm not entirely sure what direction things will take, or it's still a bit unclear at the moment. These expressions help you communicate uncertainty while still sounding confident. Try practicing this now by saying, it's hard to say what the next few days will look like, but I'm staying hopeful. Another extremely useful fluency skill is expressing relief. Fluent speakers often describe relief using expressions like, that was a huge weight off my shoulders, or I felt so much better once it was over, or it was such a relief to hear that. These expressions help you talk about emotional moments more naturally. Think of a moment when you felt relieved, and practice saying, it was such a relief when everything finally worked out. Let's now shift into how fluent speakers express encouragement. Encouragement is an important part of communication, especially when supporting friends or colleagues. Instead of saying, you can do it, you might say, I'm confident you'll handle this really well, or you've already made so much progress. Keep going, or I believe in your ability to succeed. These expressions are powerful and uplifting. Try practicing one now by gently saying, you're doing a great job. Keep moving forward. Another advanced fluency skill is expressing hesitation without sounding unsure. Fluent speakers often use expressions like, I'm still thinking about it, or I haven't fully decided yet, or I'm weighing my options at the moment. These phrases help you sound thoughtful rather than uncertain. Try practicing now by saying, I haven't fully decided yet, but I'm considering a few options. Let's explore the advanced vocabulary used to describe achievements and successes. Instead of saying, I did it, Fluent speakers might say, I managed to accomplish it after a lot of effort. Instead of saying, it was easy, they might say, it was surprisingly manageable once I got started. Instead of saying, I finished it, they might say, I wrapped it up successfully. Try practicing now by saying, I managed to complete my task earlier than expected. Now let's move to describing failures or setbacks in a mature, fluent way. Instead of saying, I failed, fluent speakers might say, it didn't go as planned, or I ran into a few setbacks along the way, or things didn't turn out the way I had hoped. These expressions show emotional stability and self-awareness. Practice now by saying, it didn't turn out the way I expected, but I learned something valuable from it. Another crucial aspect of advanced speaking is describing confusion or lack of clarity without sounding negative. Fluent speakers use expressions like, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, or I'm not entirely sure how to interpret that, or it's a bit tricky to understand at first. These expressions help you communicate confusion politely and naturally. Practice now by saying, I'm still trying to wrap my head around this concept, but it's becoming clearer. Let's now focus on advanced conversational flow. Fluent speakers often keep conversations moving by connecting their ideas with expressions like, that being said, on a similar note, to add to that. At the same time, these transitions make your speech sound smooth and thoughtful. For example, I've been really focused lately. That being said, I'm trying not to overwork myself. Try forming your own sentence starting with, on a similar note. Another important fluency skill is describing priorities. Instead of saying, this is important, fluent speakers say, this is something I really need to focus on. Or, this is a top priority for me right now. Or, I've been putting a lot of attention into this lately. These expressions make you sound organized and purposeful. Practice now by saying, improving my English speaking is a top priority for me right now. Finally, let's continue with a guided transformation exercise to build your natural fluency. I'll say a simple idea, and you upgrade it into an advanced version. I don't want to do it. You might say, I'd prefer not to, if that's okay. I'm thinking about it. You can say, I'm giving it some thought. I'm not ready. You can say, I'm not quite there yet. These transformations help you express yourself with confidence and clarity, the way fluent speakers do every day. As we continue this advanced fluency journey, let's now strengthen your ability to express opinions with depth and clarity. In real conversations, fluent speakers rarely give quick or simple answers when sharing opinions. They expand their ideas naturally. Instead of saying, it's good, they might say, I think it has a lot of potential, especially in the long run. Instead of saying, I like it, they might say, I genuinely appreciate the way it's been designed. It feels thoughtful and well-structured. These expressions reflect maturity and deeper understanding. Try practicing now by choosing a simple object around you and describing it with more depth. For example, I really appreciate how comfortable this chair is. It makes working much easier. Another layer of advanced English is expressing different levels of certainty. Fluent speakers use subtle differences in tone to show how confident they are about something. Instead of saying, I'm sure, they might say, I'm fairly confident about this, or I'm quite certain, or I'm almost positive. On the other hand, when they are unsure, they say things like, I could be mistaken, but, or I'm not entirely convinced, or it's still not completely clear to me. These phrases help you sound precise and thoughtful rather than overly certain or too vague. Practice this now by saying, I'm fairly confident that my English is improving with consistent practice. Now let's look at how fluent speakers describe personal insights. Insights are moments when you suddenly understand something more clearly than before. Instead of saying, I noticed something, they might say, it occurred to me that, or I suddenly realized, or I came to understand that. These expressions help you describe your thought process in a natural way. Try practicing by saying, it occurred to me that practicing a little each day makes a huge difference over time. Let's move into expressing possibilities and predictions. Fluent speakers rarely use the simple will structure in every situation. They often use more natural phrasing like, there's a good chance that, or it seems likely that, or if things continue this way. These structures help you sound more advanced. For example, if things continue this way, you'll become much more confident in your speaking. Try forming your own sentence using there's a good chance that. Another essential aspect of advanced conversations is being able to express empathy, which shows understanding and emotional intelligence. Instead of saying, I understand, fluent speakers say, I can imagine how that must have felt. Or, I'm really sorry you had to go through that. Or, that sounds really difficult. I'm here if you need anything. These expressions help you connect with others more deeply. Practice now with the phrase, I can imagine how challenging that must have been for you. Now let's explore how fluent speakers manage disagreements without sounding rude. Instead of saying, you're wrong, they might say, I see where you're coming from, but I have a slightly different viewpoint. Or, I understand your perspective, although I see it differently. These expressions maintain politeness and mutual respect. Try practicing now by saying, I see what you mean, but I think there's another angle to consider. Next, let's focus on expressing comparisons in a more advanced way. Instead of saying, this is better, fluent speakers might say, this seems a bit more effective in the long run. Or, this option might be slightly more practical. Instead of saying, this is worse, they could say, it's not as reliable as the other option. These subtle expressions make your comparisons sound more thoughtful. Try creating your own sentence beginning with, this seems a bit more. Another powerful fluency tool is describing cause and effect naturally. Fluent speakers use expressions like, as a result, therefore, consequently, because of that, or this led to. These connectors help your ideas flow logically. For example, I practiced speaking every day, and as a result, I became much more confident. Practice now by forming a sentence that begins with, as a result. Let's now explore how fluent speakers ask for clarification politely. Instead of saying, what do you mean? They might say, could you clarify that a little? Or, do you mind explaining that in a slightly different way? Or, I didn't quite understand. Could you walk me through it? These phrases make your requests sound respectful and natural. Practice this by saying, could you explain that again in a clearer way? Another important skill is describing preferences in a detailed and advanced way. Instead of saying, I like studying in the morning, fluent speakers say, I find that I'm most productive when I study in the morning because my mind feels fresher. Or, I generally prefer studying earlier in the day. It helps me stay focused. Try practicing now by describing one of your preferences with more detail. For example, I tend to prefer quiet environments because they help me concentrate better. Let's explore advanced expressions for giving compliments in professional settings. Instead of saying, good work, fluent speakers say, you handled this exceptionally well, or your attention to detail is impressive, or you've done a remarkable job on this project. These expressions show genuine appreciation and respect. Practice by saying, you've shown exceptional progress with your English speaking skills. Now let's move into describing frequency and habits naturally. Instead of saying, I always do this, fluent speakers might say, I make a habit of, or I typically, or most of the time. These expressions help you express routine more flexibly. For example, I typically start my day with a short study session because it puts me in a productive mindset. Try saying, most of the time, I review new vocabulary before going to bed. Another aspect of advanced speaking is expressing disappointment in a calm and polite manner. Instead of saying, I'm disappointed, fluent speakers might say, I was hoping for a better outcome, or it didn't turn out the way I expected, or I felt a little let down by the situation. These expressions help you stay composed while expressing negative emotions. Practice now by saying, I was hoping for a different result, but I'll try again next time. Let's also practice the advanced skill of expressing gratitude for opportunities. Instead of saying, thanks for the chance, fluent speakers say, I really appreciate the opportunity to be part of this. Or, I'm grateful to have been given this chance. These expressions show humility and professionalism. Try saying, I'm truly grateful for all the learning opportunities I've had recently. Now, let's do a guided transformation exercise to solidify what you've learned. I'll give you a basic sentence, and you transform it into an advanced one in your mind. I'm angry. You might say, I'm feeling a bit frustrated with the situation. I don't like it. You could say, it's not really to my liking. I'm surprised. You can say, that completely caught me off guard. These shifts elevate your speaking and help you express emotions more naturally. Let's continue. I want you to take one deep breath and recognize how far you've come in building your fluency. Every advanced phrase you've practiced in this masterclass is bringing you closer to speaking English in a confident, expressive, and natural way. Keep taking these small steps, keep repeating these expressions, and keep believing in your ability to speak fluently. You are growing every minute you practice, and that progress is worth celebrating. As we move further into this masterclass, let's deepen your ability to express subtle shades of meaning in English. Because true fluency is built on the small details. One powerful way fluent speakers communicate naturally is by describing their thoughts in layers instead of simple statements. For example, instead of saying, I think this is helpful, they might say, I get the feeling that this could be genuinely helpful in the long run. This adds depth, rhythm, and clarity to their speech. Try practicing now by saying, I get the impression that practicing English daily really strengthens my confidence. Another advanced skill is describing intentions softly rather than with rigid statements. Instead of saying, I will do it, fluent speakers often say, I'm planning to, or I'm hoping to, or I'm thinking about. These expressions make your speech flexible and natural. For example, I'm hoping to focus more on my speaking skills this week. Try practicing now by choosing a goal and saying, I'm planning to work on this regularly. Let's now explore the advanced language of expressing curiosity and interest. Fluency isn't only about giving good answers, it's about asking good questions too. Fluent speakers often ask questions in soft, expressive ways like, I'm curious to know, or could you tell me more about that? Or I've always wondered. These kinds of questions help you sound warm and engaged in conversation. Try practicing now by saying, I'm curious to know how you stay motivated while learning English. Another important part of advanced speaking is describing the impact of situations rather than just the situation itself. Instead of saying, it affected me, fluent speakers might say, it had a significant impact on how I felt, or it changed the way I look at things, or it shaped my perspective over time. These expressions help you communicate emotions and experiences in a deeper way. Practice now by saying, that experience really shaped the way I approach learning. Let's move into another essential fluency skill, expressing balance. Fluent speakers often present two ideas at once, showing open-mindedness and deeper thinking. They use expressions like, while I agree with some parts, or although I understand that point, or even though I see what you mean. These expressions reinforce emotional intelligence in communication. Try practicing now by saying, while I understand the challenge, I also believe it's an opportunity to grow. Now let's explore how fluent speakers describe gradual processes. English speakers rarely say, I changed, or I improved, in isolation. They say, I've been gradually adjusting to, or I'm slowly getting used to, or I've been adapting to. These expressions make your speech more realistic and relatable. Think of something you're adapting to right now and say, I'm slowly getting used to this routine. Another advanced skill is describing temporary states. Native speakers often use phrases like, I've been feeling, or I'm currently, or lately, I've noticed, to describe what's happening in their lives right now. For example, lately, I've been feeling more focused during my study sessions. Try practicing this now by saying, I've been feeling more confident with my English lately. Let's shift into how fluent speakers handle unexpected situations in everyday life. Instead of simply saying, something happened, they might say, something unexpected came up earlier, or I had to deal with an unexpected situation, or out of nowhere, I found myself managing something I didn't plan. These expressions help you sound natural when telling stories or explaining delays. Practice now by saying, something unexpected came up, but I managed to handle it. Another advanced fluency feature is using metaphors or descriptive imagery to express ideas more vividly. For example, instead of saying, I was tired, you might say, I felt like my energy was slowly fading away. Or instead of saying, I was busy, you could say, my day was packed from start to finish. These expressions make your English sound expressive and engaging. Try practicing by describing your day metaphorically, like, my schedule felt like a nonstop roller coaster today. Let's look at another powerful technique: expressing hope and optimism naturally. Fluent speakers often avoid overly strong statements like, everything will be fine, and instead use softer, more realistic phrasing like, I'm hopeful that things will work out, or I'm staying optimistic, or I believe things will improve step by step. Try practicing now by saying, I'm hopeful that my speaking will continue improving with practice. Now let's explore expressing doubt politely. Instead of saying, I doubt it, fluent speakers soften their tone with expressions like, I'm not entirely convinced, or I'm not sure that would work, or I have a few reservations about that idea. These expressions help you communicate without sounding negative. Practice this now by saying, I'm not entirely convinced this is the best option, but I'm open to exploring it. Another key part of advanced English is expressing agreement with nuance. Instead of saying, I agree, fluent speakers say, I completely agree with that point, or I agree to a certain extent, or I agree although I think there's more to consider. These variations help you sound thoughtful and articulate. Practice now by saying, I agree to a certain extent, but I think we can look at it from another angle too. Let's now focus on describing routines and systems you follow in a natural way. Instead of saying, this is my routine, fluent speakers say, this is a structure that works best for me, or this is the approach I usually follow, or this is what I find most effective. These expressions sound more advanced and professional. Practice by saying, this is the approach I usually follow when practicing English. Now let's examine how fluent speakers describe their limitations in a mature way. Instead of saying, I can't do it, they often say, I'm not able to take that on right now, or it's a bit outside my comfort zone at the moment, or I don't feel fully prepared for that yet. These expressions are polite, clear, and emotionally intelligent. Practice now by saying, I don't feel completely prepared for that yet, but I'm working on it. Let's also explore how fluent speakers express expectations politely. Instead of saying, you must, they say, it would be great if you could, or it might be helpful if, or you may want to consider. These expressions sound gentle and respectful. For example, it might be helpful if you practice speaking for a few minutes every day. Try saying, you may want to consider setting small goals each day. Now let's do another guided transformation exercise to strengthen your fluency. I'll give you simple ideas, and you convert them into advanced expressions. I'm late. You might say, I'm running a bit behind schedule. I'm bored. You could say, I'm finding it hard to stay engaged right now. I'm happy. You can say, I'm genuinely pleased about this. This practice helps your mind automatically choose the most natural expressions. Let's continue with a soft motivational reminder. Every new phrase you repeat, every transformation you practice, and every moment you spend listening builds your natural fluency. You're training your brain to think and respond like a fluent speaker. This is not just learning words. This is building rhythm, tone, expression, and confidence. And little by little, these skills become second nature. You are doing an incredible job by staying committed to this journey. as we continue this advanced masterclass. Let's now explore another powerful area of fluent communication, expressing subtle emotional states and internal experiences with clarity and nuance. Fluent speakers rarely use plain emotional words. They give context, layers, and tone. Instead of saying, "I'm stressed," they might say, "I've been feeling a bit overwhelmed by everything lately." Instead of saying, "I'm excited," they might say, "I'm genuinely looking forward to what's coming." These expressions make your English sound authentic, human, and emotionally rich. Try practicing now by saying, "I've been feeling a little overwhelmed, but I'm handling everything step by step." Another key element of advanced speaking is being able to manage the flow of conversation with natural expressions that show your engagement. Fluent speakers use conversational markers like, "By the way," "Actually," "That reminds me," "Speaking of which," and "Come to think of it." These expressions help conversations feel alive and connected. Try practicing now by saying, "Speaking of that, I remembered something important I wanted to share." Now let's explore how fluent speakers express the idea of gradual understanding. Instead of saying, "I understood," they might say, "It started to make more sense as I went along," or "The more I thought about it, the clearer it became." These expressions create a sense of progress and reflection. Think of a topic you recently learned and say, "The more I practiced it, the easier it became." Another advanced skill is describing effort and dedication. Instead of saying, "I try hard," fluent speakers say, "I've been putting in a lot of effort lately," or "I've been really committed to improving this skill," or "I've been consistently working on this." These expressions show persistence and intention. Try practicing now by saying, "I've been consistently putting effort into improving my English speaking." Let's move into expressing gentle criticism in a polite and natural way. Fluent speakers rarely criticize something directly. They soften their words to maintain respect. Instead of saying, "It's bad," they might say, "It could use a bit more improvement." Instead of saying, "I don't like it," they might say, "It's not exactly my preference." These expressions help you communicate honestly without sounding harsh. Practice now by saying, "It's not exactly what I had in mind, but I can work with it." Now let's explore advanced expressions that describe energy and motivation. Instead of saying, "I'm motivated," fluent speakers might say, "I'm feeling really inspired to keep going." Instead of saying, "I'm tired," they might say, "My energy is running a little low today." Try practicing now by saying, "I'm feeling inspired to focus even more on my fluency goals." Another important part of advanced English is learning how to express agreement in layers. Fluent speakers use expressions like, "I completely agree with you on that point," "I agree, although I think there's more to consider." "That's a great observation. I hadn't thought of it that way." These expressions show that you are thinking deeply about what the other person is saying. Try practicing with, "That's a really good point. I hadn't considered it from that angle." Let's now explore how fluent speakers express priorities. Instead of saying, "This is important," they say, "This is something I really need to focus on right now," or "This has become a major priority for me," or "I've been putting a lot of my attention into this lately." These expressions make your speech sound purposeful and organized. Try saying, Improving my English fluency has become a major priority for me lately. Another advanced skill is explaining how you handle difficult situations. Instead of saying, I managed it, fluent speakers might say, I tried my best to stay calm and work through it. Or, I took things step by step until everything made more sense. Or, I approached the situation slowly and carefully. Try practicing by saying, I handled it by taking things step by step. Let's look at the language fluent speakers use when describing habits that are still developing. Instead of saying, I'm learning, they might say, I'm still getting the hang of it, or I'm gradually improving my understanding, or I'm becoming more comfortable with it. These expressions show progress and effort. Try practicing now by saying, I'm still getting the hang of advanced English expressions, but I'm improving every day. Now let's discuss expressing reassurance in a calm, natural way. Fluent speakers often comfort others by saying, it's completely understandable. It makes sense that you feel that way. There's no need to worry. You're doing your best. These expressions are gentle and supportive. Practice saying, it's completely understandable to feel unsure sometimes. You're doing great. Another advanced skill is describing choices in a thoughtful way. Instead of saying, I chose this, fluent speakers might say, I decided to go with this option because it aligned with my goals. Or, I ended up choosing this because it felt right for me at the time. Or, I weighed my options and this seemed the most reasonable. Try practicing now by saying, I chose this method because it fits my learning style better. Let's now explore how fluent speakers express insight about other people or situations. They use expressions like, what I noticed was that, or something that stood out to me was, or what really caught my attention was. These expressions help you speak with depth and reflection. Practice by saying, what really stood out to me was how natural these expressions feel once you practice them. Another major part of advanced fluency is storytelling. Fluent speakers tell stories in a way that flows smoothly and naturally. They use expressions like, so there I was, before I knew it, to my surprise, after thinking about it for a moment. These transitions help your listener follow your story easily. Try practicing by telling a simple story beginning with, to my surprise. Now let's strengthen your ability to express wishes and hypothetical thoughts in an advanced way. Fluent speakers say things like, I wish I had more time to focus on this, or if only I could practice every single day, or I'd love to be able to do that someday. These expressions help you talk about unreal or imagined situations in a natural way. Practice now by saying, I wish I could dedicate even more time to improving my speaking. Another advanced skill is describing patterns and tendencies. Fluent speakers say things like, I tend to, I often find myself, I usually end up. These expressions show natural behavior in a smooth way. Try practicing by saying, I tend to learn best when I listen and repeat. Let's continue with a guided transformation exercise to internalize today's expressions. I'll say a basic sentence, and you convert it into an advanced one. I don't understand will become, I'm not entirely sure I understand that yet. I'm happy will become, I'm genuinely pleased with the progress I'm making. I don't know will become, I'm not completely certain, but I can try to explain. I'm busy will become, I'm juggling quite a lot right now. Practice transforming simple sentences like this daily. Your fluency will grow naturally and steadily. You're doing an incredible job continuing this long practice session. Your focus, patience, and effort are building a deeper, stronger speaking ability. Keep going. Your fluency is growing with every moment. As we continue this advanced English fluency masterclass, let's move deeper into the world of natural, expressive communication, focusing on how fluent speakers describe actions, thoughts, and experiences with clarity and subtlety. One of the strongest markers of fluency is the ability to describe complex situations without sounding complicated. Fluent speakers use simple but expressive structures like, I ended up, I found myself, I managed to, I happened to. These expressions help you communicate everyday actions with ease. For example, instead of saying, I went to the shop by accident, you can say, I happened to pass by the shop, so I went in. Try practicing this now by saying, I ended up studying longer than I expected today. Another essential skill fluent speakers master is expressing small realizations and new understandings as they occur. Instead of saying, I learned something, they often say, it taught me something important, or it opened my eyes to, or it made me realize. These expressions give depth to your thoughts and invite listeners to connect with your feelings. Try practicing by saying, this experience made me realize how important daily practice really is. Now, let's explore advanced ways to express encouragement to others, and even to yourself. Fluent speakers often use thoughtful, uplifting expressions like, take your time, you're doing great so far, or you're improving step by step, and it's really noticeable, or keep going, you're moving in the right direction. These phrases sound warm, supportive, and natural. Try practicing now by saying, I'm improving step by step, and I'm proud of my progress. Another key part of advanced fluency is describing decision-making. Fluent speakers rarely say, I decided, without adding context. They use expressions like, after giving it some thought, once I considered my options, I eventually settled on, or I came to the conclusion that. These expressions show careful thinking and maturity. Try practicing by saying, after giving it some thought, I decided to focus more on speaking practice. Let's move into describing new habits or routines you're developing. Fluent speakers say things like, I've been incorporating this into my routine lately, or I've been making an effort to, or recently I've started paying more attention to. These expressions show intention and growth. Practice now by saying, I've been making an effort to speak English out loud every day. Now let's talk about describing obstacles in a fluent way. Instead of saying, I had a problem, fluent speakers say, I ran into a challenge, or I faced a bit of a setback, or I encountered something unexpected. These expressions make your speech sound mature and composed. Try practicing now with the sentence, I ran into a small challenge, but I handled it calmly. Another layer of fluency is the ability to give explanations that build gradually. Fluent speakers often use layered structures like, first of all, on top of that. Another reason is, what made it even more surprising was. These phrases help you present your ideas in an organized, professional way. Try practicing now by saying, first of all, I wanted to improve my English, And on top of that, I wanted to build more confidence. Let's explore the language of expressing regret in a soft and natural tone. Instead of saying, I regret it, fluent speakers say, I wish I had handled it differently. Or, looking back, I think I could have made a better choice. Or, I feel like I missed an opportunity there. These expressions show emotional awareness and maturity. Practice now by saying, looking back, I think I could have spent more time practicing. Now let's move into describing progress and change in a motivating way. Fluent speakers often use expressions like, I'm getting closer to, I'm beginning to see results, I'm finally starting to understand. These phrases help you show positive momentum. Try practicing by saying, I'm beginning to see real results from my speaking. Practice. Another important fluency skill is learning how to describe your reaction when something surprises you. Native speakers often say, I wasn't expecting that at all, or it caught me completely by surprise, or it took me a moment to process it. These expressions bring your stories to life. Practice this now by saying, it caught me completely by surprise, but I adapted quickly. Let's look at how fluent speakers express curiosity about learning. Instead of saying, I want to know, they say, I've always been curious about, or I'm really interested in learning more about, or I'd love to explore this further. Try practicing now by saying, I've always been curious about how native speakers build natural rhythm while speaking. Now let's explore advanced expressions for expressing comfort or discomfort. Fluent speakers describe how they feel in subtle ways. Instead of saying, I'm uncomfortable, they might say, I don't really feel at ease with this. Instead of saying, I like it, they might say, I feel comfortable with this. Practice this now by saying, I feel more at ease speaking English when I practice regularly. Another skill fluent speakers use is describing intentions with soft determination. Instead of saying, I must do this, they say, I really want to make this happen. Or, I'm aiming to accomplish this. These expressions show motivation without pressure. Try practicing by saying, I'm aiming to become a confident and natural English speaker. Now, let's practice advanced conversational connectors that help you sound smooth and articulate. Fluent speakers often use expressions like, with that being said, on a related note, to build on what I said earlier. Moving forward, these connectors help conversations flow naturally. Try practicing now with the phrase, with that being said, I want to keep improving my vocabulary. Let's explore the language fluent speakers use when expressing suggestions delicately. Instead of saying, you should, they might say, you might find it helpful to, or you could consider, or one thing you might want to try is. These expressions sound gentle and respectful. Practice now by saying, you might find it helpful to speak out loud even when you're alone. Another powerful aspect of advanced communication is expressing satisfaction or contentment. Fluent speakers say things like, I'm really pleased with how things turned out, or I feel quite satisfied with my progress today, or I'm happy with the way everything is coming together. Try practicing now by saying, I'm really pleased with how my English fluency is developing. Let's now go into describing your inner thoughts in a reflective, advanced way. Fluent speakers use phrases like, a part of me feels like, Sometimes I wonder whether I've been thinking a lot about. These expressions give depth to your speech. Try saying, I've been thinking a lot about how I can create a stronger English practice routine. Let's Let's do a guided transformation exercise to reinforce your fluency. I'll give you simple ideas and you transform them. I'm unsure. Will become, I'm not entirely certain yet. I'm hopeful. Will become, I'm staying optimistic about it. I'm frustrated. Will become, it's been testing my patience a little. I'm improving. Will become, I've been noticing steady progress. These transformations help your brain internalize the rhythm, tone, and expression of fluent English. You are doing an incredible job, and your dedication to this long practice session shows just how committed you are to speaking English confidently. Keep going. You are becoming more fluent every moment. As we continue this masterclass, let's now explore deeper layers of advanced communication, especially the language fluent speakers use when expressing complex thoughts, subtle emotions, and reflective insights. One of the most important skills at this level is learning how to express what you think and what you feel at the same time, in a way that sounds natural and sophisticated. Fluent speakers often combine emotional and logical expressions together, using patterns like, I feel like, but at the same time, or I understand the logic behind it, although emotionally I feel. These expressions show maturity, emotional intelligence, and clarity. Try practicing now by saying, I feel like I'm improving, but at the same time, I know I still have more work to do. Another key part of advanced fluency is describing your mindset. Fluent speakers talk about their thinking patterns using expressions like, I've been trying to stay more mindful of, or I've been paying close attention to, or I've been shifting my mindset toward. These expressions help you express your internal world clearly. Try practicing now by saying, I've been shifting my mindset toward being more confident when I speak English. Let's explore describing effort, not just outcomes. Fluent speakers rarely just say, I achieved something. Instead, they describe the process behind it. They use expressions like, I put a lot of thought into this, or I dedicated a lot of time to improving this skill, or I've been gradually building this ability. These expressions show growth and commitment. Practice now by saying, I've been gradually building my speaking confidence day by day. Now let's look at how fluent speakers describe interactions with others. Instead of saying, we talked, they might say, we had a really meaningful conversation, or we exchanged some interesting ideas, or we ended up discussing something really important. These expressions bring life and detail into your communication. Try practicing now by saying, we had a really meaningful conversation that helped me think differently. Another advanced skill is expressing the why behind your feelings. Instead of saying, I'm nervous, a fluent speaker might say, I'm feeling a bit nervous because I want to do well. Instead of saying, I'm excited, they might say, I'm excited because this feels like a great opportunity. These expressions make your communication clearer and more relatable. Try practicing now by saying, I'm feeling a bit unsure because I'm still getting used to advanced expressions. Let's now explore advanced vocabulary for describing personal development. Fluent speakers often use words like evolving, adapting, growing, cultivating, and refining. For example, I've been refining my speaking style over time, or I'm cultivating the habit of speaking English every day. Try practicing now by saying, I'm gradually refining my fluency and confidence. Another powerful element of advanced English is expressing boundaries politely. Fluent speakers often use soft expressions like, I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that, or I don't think that works for me right now, or I'd prefer something a bit different. These phrases help you communicate clearly while maintaining respect. Try practicing now by saying, I'd prefer to take things slowly for now. Let's now focus on expressing small victories in a natural, encouraging way. Fluent speakers rarely boast. They reflect. Instead of saying, I did well, they might say, I feel good about the progress I made today, or I'm proud of how I handled that situation. These expressions reflect humility and self-awareness. Try practicing now by saying, I'm proud of the progress I'm making in this masterclass. Another advanced skill is expressing how something influences you. Fluent speakers use expressions like, it motivated me to, it inspired me to, it pushed me to rethink, or it encouraged me to consider. These sentences help you describe the impact something had on your actions or emotions. Try practicing by saying, this practice is motivating me to speak more confidently. Let's now explore how fluent speakers express doubts without sounding negative. They use expressions like, I have a few concerns, or I'm not completely sure about this yet, or I'm trying to understand it better. These phrases keep the conversation polite and open. Try practicing now by saying, I'm trying to understand this concept more deeply. Another fluency skill is expressing almost outcomes, situations where something didn't fully happen but came close. Instead of saying, I nearly did it, fluent speakers often say, I came really close to doing it, or I was just about to, or I almost managed to make it happen. These expressions make storytelling more vivid. Try practicing now by saying, I came really close to finishing my task early. Now let's deepen your ability to express emotional transitions, shifts from one feeling to another. Fluent speakers say things like, at first I felt overwhelmed, but gradually I started feeling more confident. Or, I was nervous at the beginning, but then I settled into it. These expressions show emotional evolution. Practice now by saying, at first, I felt unsure, but now I feel more in control. Another powerful skill fluent speakers use is describing what they appreciate in others. Instead of saying, I like this person, they say, I appreciate their honesty, or I value the way they communicate, or I admire their dedication. These expressions help you connect with others more deeply. Practice now by saying, I really admire people who stay consistent in their learning. Let's now explore the language of expressing hesitation or caution. Fluent speakers often say, I'm a bit hesitant because, or I want to be careful about how I say this, or I'm thinking twice about this. These expressions help you express concerns gently. Try practicing now by saying, I'm a bit hesitant because I want to get this right. Another essential advanced skill is describing clarity and insight. Fluent speakers often use expressions like, everything suddenly clicked. It finally made sense. The idea became much clearer. These expressions show the moment of understanding. Try practicing now by saying, "Everything is finally starting to make sense as I practice more. Now, let's do a guided transformation exercise to strengthen your fluency. Transform these simple ideas into more advanced expressions." "I'm tired" will become, "My energy is starting to run low today." "I'm happy" will become, "I'm genuinely pleased with how things are going." "I don't know" will become, "I'm not entirely sure yet, but I'm trying to figure it out." "I'm scared" will become, "I'm feeling a bit uneasy about it." Practice transforming basic sentences whenever you speak. It trains your mind to think fluently. Let's move further. I want to remind you that you've already built a huge foundation of advanced speaking skills just by listening, repeating, and practicing consistently. You're strengthening your speaking muscles, your confidence, and your ability to express yourself freely. Keep going. You're doing something truly meaningful for your future fluency. As we move into this next stage of your advanced English speaking journey, let's deepen your ability to express thoughts that are both reflective and forward-looking. Fluent speakers often talk about their hopes, worries, dreams, and expectations in a calm, natural tone. And this ability makes their speech sound emotional, yet controlled. Instead of saying, "I hope I improve," they say, "I'm really hoping to grow even more in the coming weeks." Instead of saying, "I'm afraid," they might say, "I'm a little concerned about how things will turn out." These subtle shifts create emotional fluency and show a deeper awareness of yourself. Try practicing now by saying, "I'm really hoping to build even stronger speaking habits this month." Another essential element of advanced fluency is describing your relationship with learning itself. Fluent speakers often express how they feel about learning with phrases like, "I've been enjoying the process of," "I'm beginning to appreciate," "I've started to embrace the idea that." These expressions show that learning is not only about results, but also about the experience. Try practicing now by saying, "I've started to appreciate the small improvements I make every day." Let's now focus on describing expectations in a balanced way. Fluent speakers don't speak in extremes. They express moderate expectations. Instead of saying, "It will work," they say, "I'm hopeful it will work." Instead of saying, "It won't work," they say, "I'm not sure it will work as planned." These expressions help you sound mature and emotionally steady. Try practicing now with, "I'm optimistic that I'll continue improving as long as I stay consistent." Another powerful fluency technique is expressing your internal doubts while also showing confidence. Fluent speakers often say things like, "I'm not completely sure about this, but I'm willing to try," or "I'm still figuring things out, but I'm moving forward." These expressions help you stay honest while sounding positive. Try practicing now by saying, "I'm still figuring things out, but I'm staying committed to my English practice." Let's move into describing influence and inspiration. Fluent speakers often talk about what inspires them using gentle, expressive language. Instead of saying, "This inspires me," they might say, "This really motivates me to push forward," or "It encourages me to keep going," or "It sparks my interest every time I learn something new." Try practicing now by saying, "Every new expression I learn motivates me to keep improving." Now let's explore how fluent speakers describe challenges and struggles without sounding defeated. They use phrases like, "It's been a challenge, but I'm managing. It's taken some effort, but I'm getting there. Or, it's been difficult at times, but I'm staying positive. These expressions show emotional resilience. Try practicing now by saying, "It's been challenging, but I'm growing stronger through every lesson." Another important fluency skill is describing different perspectives. Fluent speakers often use phrases like, "from what I can tell," "from my point of view," "as far as I understand," "looking at it from another perspective." These expressions help you show flexible thinking. Try practicing now by saying, "From my point of view, consistent speaking practice makes the biggest difference." Let's now focus on describing the complexity of a situation. Instead of saying, "It's complicated," fluent speakers say, "It's a bit more complex than it seems," or "There are a few layers to this situation," or "It's not as straightforward as I thought." Try practicing with the sentence, "It's a bit more complex than I expected, but I'm understanding it better now." Another advanced skill is expressing personal reflections about your own journey. Fluent speakers often pause and say things like, "Looking back, I can see how much I've grown. When I think about where I started, I never realized how far I'd come until I looked back." These expressions show gratitude and awareness. Try practicing now by saying, "When I look back at my early English practice, I can see how much progress I've made." Now let's explore advanced language for describing temporary struggles. Fluent speakers say things like, "I've been feeling a bit off lately," or "My mind hasn't been very clear today," or "I've been a little distracted recently." These subtle expressions allow you to communicate your emotional state naturally. Practice now by saying, "I've been feeling a bit off lately, but I'm slowly getting back into my rhythm." Another essential advanced skill is describing moments of clarity. Fluent speakers use expressions like, "It suddenly became clear," "Everything fell into place," "Something just clicked." These phrases help you express that aha moment. Try practicing now by saying, "Something finally clicked for me during today's lesson." Let's now explore how fluent speakers describe their long-term goals. Instead of saying, "I want to be fluent," they might say, "I'm aiming to reach a level of fluency where I can express myself effortlessly," or "My long-term goal is to speak confidently in any situation." These expressions sound more thoughtful and precise. Try practicing now with, "My goal is to reach a level of fluency where speaking feels completely natural." Another part of advanced fluency is expressing appreciation in deeper, more meaningful ways. Fluent speakers often say things like, "I truly appreciate the support," or "I'm grateful for the encouragement," or "I value this learning experience so much." These expressions show emotional warmth. Try practicing with, "I truly appreciate the progress I'm making with every lesson." Now, let's strengthen your ability to describe your reactions to new information. Fluent speakers use expressions like, "That surprised me," "I wasn't expecting that," "That caught my attention," "I found that really interesting." These reactions keep conversation alive. Practice now by saying, "I found today's new expressions really interesting." Another layer of fluency is describing the future with flexibility. Instead of saying, "I will," fluent speakers say, "I'm planning to," "I'm hoping to," "I intend to," "If everything goes well." Try practicing now by saying, If everything goes well, I'm hoping to speak English with much more confidence soon. Let's continue with a guided transformation exercise. To solidify your advanced speaking habits, transform these ideas. I'm confused will become, I'm not entirely sure what to make of this yet. I'm okay will become, I'm doing all right, just taking things slowly. I'm nervous will become, I'm feeling a bit on edge about this. I'm improving will become, I can feel myself becoming more confident each day. You're doing exceptional work by staying committed to this long and detailed fluency masterclass. Every sentence you repeat, every expression you internalize, and every moment you stay present builds your fluency even more. Keep going. The results will continue to grow. As we continue this advanced English-speaking masterclass, let's deepen your ability to express subtle thoughts and emotional layers in a natural and fluent way. One of the most powerful features of advanced communication is being able to shift between inner reflection and outward expression smoothly. Fluent speakers often say things like, part of me feels like, or a small part of me wonders whether, or deep down, I know that. These phrases allow you to express complex inner feelings with honesty and clarity. Try practicing now by saying, part of me feels confident, but another part of me knows I still need more practice. Another important part of advanced fluency is describing your learning journey in a thoughtful and expressive way. Instead of saying, I learned a lot, fluent speakers say, this journey has taught me so much, or I've grown in ways I didn't expect, or this experience has opened my mind to new possibilities. These expressions make your speech sound deep and insightful. Try practicing now by saying, this journey has taught me to be more patient with myself. Now let's explore the advanced language fluent speakers use to describe time, progress, and pacing. Instead of saying, it took a long time, they might say, it took longer than I expected, or it happened gradually, over time, or it unfolded slowly, step by step. These expressions create a gentle narrative flow. Practice now by saying, my progress unfolded gradually as I practiced regularly. Another essential skill is expressing your emotional reactions with maturity. Fluent speakers rarely use extreme emotional words. Instead, they soften their tone with expressions like, I was a bit surprised. It made me feel slightly uneasy. I felt a little relieved afterward. This emotional subtlety shows balance and self-awareness. Try practicing now by saying, I felt slightly relieved when I realized I was improving. Let's now explore how fluent speakers handle conflict or differences calmly. Instead of saying, I disagree, they often say, I see what you mean, although I view it differently. Or, I understand your point, but I have a different interpretation. These expressions preserve respect while expressing your own ideas. Practice now by saying, I understand your point, but I see things a little differently. Another advanced fluency skill is describing your thought process. Fluent speakers often say things like, at first, I thought, then it occurred to me that, eventually, I realized. After reflecting on it, these expressions help you share how your thinking changed. Try practicing now by saying, at first, I felt unsure, but eventually, I realized I was improving. Now let's explore the language of expressing appreciation for small moments. Fluent speakers often highlight small, meaningful experiences using expressive phrases like, "It really made my day when," "It warmed my heart to see," "It brought me so much joy when." These expressions make your language feel warm and human. Practice by saying, "It really made my day when I understood a phrase I used to struggle with." Another essential skill is expressing emotional balance, holding two emotions at once. Fluent speakers might say, "I'm excited, but I'm also a little nervous," or "I feel hopeful, yet a bit uncertain," or "I'm grateful, although it's challenging sometimes." These expressions show emotional intelligence. Try practicing now by saying, "I'm hopeful about my progress, but I also know there's more to learn." Let's now explore advanced language for expressing priorities and commitments. Fluent speakers usually say things like, "I've been prioritizing," "I'm focusing most of my time on," "I've been dedicating myself to." These expressions show structure, control, and organization. Try practicing now by saying, "I've been prioritizing my English speaking practice lately." Another important part of fluency is how we express our confidence. Instead of saying, "I'm confident," fluent speakers might say, "I'm feeling more confident than before," or "My confidence has grown over time," or "I'm starting to trust myself more." These expressions sound sincere and natural. Try practicing with, "I'm starting to trust myself more when I speak." Let's now explore the language of expressing surprises in deeper detail. Fluent speakers say things like, "It took me by surprise," "I wasn't expecting that reaction," "It came out of nowhere," "It was completely unexpected." These expressions help you tell stories with emotion and detail. Practice now by saying, "It took me by surprise how natural some phrases felt after practicing." Another layer of advanced fluency is describing physical and mental states with nuance. Instead of saying, "I'm tired," you might say, "My energy feels a little drained today." Instead of saying, "I'm focused," you might say, "My mind feels sharp right now." Instead of saying, "I'm distracted," you might say, "My attention is wandering a little today." Practice with, "My mind feels clearer after practicing these expressions." Now let's explore advanced structures for expressing decisions. Fluent speakers often say things like, "I made the decision after thinking it through," or "I chose this path because it aligned with what I needed," or "I weighed my options and eventually chose." These expressions make your choice sound deliberate and thoughtful. Try practicing by saying, "I weighed my options and decided to focus more on speaking." Another advanced fluency skill is describing the progress of your emotions. Fluent speakers don't freeze their emotions in time. They describe how feelings shift. They say things like, "I was nervous at first, but eventually I became more comfortable," or "At first, I didn't understand, but over time it became clearer." These expressions show emotional movement. Practice with, "I felt uncertain at first, but then my confidence grew." Let's move into describing future possibilities with optimism and flexibility. Fluent speakers often say things like, "There's a possibility that," "It's likely that," "If everything goes smoothly," "I'm hoping that." Try practicing now by saying, "If everything goes smoothly, I'm hoping to reach a new level of fluency soon." Another essential part of advanced communication is expressing your values. Fluent speakers often say, "What matters most to me is," or "Something I really value is," or "One thing that's important in my life is." These expressions help you express your deeper motivations. Try practicing with, "What matters most to me is staying committed to my learning." Let's continue with a guided transformation exercise to lock in your advanced fluency. Transform these ideas. "I'm sad" will become, "I've been feeling a bit low recently." "I'm confused" will become, "I'm still trying to understand the whole picture." "I'm okay" will become, "I'm managing, just taking it one step at a time." "I'm improving" will become, "I can feel steady growth in my fluency." Every time you transform a simple sentence into an advanced expression, you strengthen the pathways in your brain that allow you to speak naturally and fluently. You are building something powerful, moment by moment, phrase by phrase. Keep going with confidence. You're doing incredibly well. As we reach the final stage of this advanced English speaking masterclass, let's bring everything together by strengthening your ability to express yourself with confidence, clarity, and emotional depth. One of the most powerful skills fluent speakers develop is the ability to explain their thoughts in a way that feels calm, natural, and reflective. Instead of saying, "I think this," fluent speakers often take a moment and say, "The way I see it," or "From my perspective," or "What I've come to understand is." These expressions show that you're thinking thoughtfully rather than speaking impulsively. Try practicing now by saying, "From my perspective, consistent practice is the key to fluency." Another important part of advanced communication is describing your emotional growth in a positive, encouraging way. Instead of saying, "I was shy," fluent speakers say, "I used to feel a bit reserved, but I'm becoming more confident now." Instead of saying, "I was nervous," they might say, "I felt a little unsure at first, but eventually I settled into it." These expressions show emotional evolution, not just emotional states. Practice now by saying, "I used to feel unsure when speaking, but now I'm beginning to feel more natural." Let's now explore how fluent speakers describe their relationship with challenges. Instead of simply saying, "It was difficult," they often say, "It pushed me beyond my comfort zone," or "It tested my patience, but it taught me something valuable," or "It challenged me in the best possible way." These expressions help you speak about difficulties with strength and positivity. Try practicing now by saying, "This journey has pushed me, but it has also taught me so much about persistence." Another powerful fluency skill is describing your future goals with confidence and intentionality. Instead of saying, "I want to improve," fluent speakers often say, "I'm aiming to continue building my fluency," or "My goal is to express myself with ease and clarity," or "I'm working toward becoming more articulate in every conversation." Practice now by saying, "I'm aiming to speak English effortlessly and confidently in the future." Let's now strengthen your ability to talk about personal insights in a fluent, reflective way. Fluent speakers often share small realizations with phrases like, "I've come to realize that." "Something I've learned through this journey is." "One thing that's become clear to me is." These expressions help you express inner wisdom naturally. Try practicing now by saying, "I've come to realize that small daily practice makes a huge difference in fluency." Another essential advanced skill is describing emotional balance, expressing two feelings at once in a natural, controlled way. Fluent speakers say things like, "I'm grateful, even though it's been challenging," or "I'm excited, but also a little nervous about what's next." These expressions show emotional depth and flexibility. Practice now by saying, I'm excited about my progress, but I know there's still room to grow. Let's explore how fluent speakers embrace imperfections and acknowledge growth. Instead of saying, I made mistakes, fluent speakers say, I learned a lot from the mistakes I made. Or, I didn't get everything right, but I grew from the experience. Try practicing now by saying, I didn't get everything perfect today, but I learned a lot from the process. Another major part of advanced fluency is the ability to express gratitude and appreciation from the heart. Fluent speakers often say things like, I genuinely appreciate this opportunity, or I'm grateful for everything I've learned, or I truly value the progress I've made. These expressions help you end conversations with emotional sincerity. Practice now by saying, I genuinely appreciate the progress I've made so far. Now, let's do one more guided transformation practice to strengthen your ability to automatically choose advanced expressions. Transform these ideas. I'm busy will become, I'm juggling quite a few things at the moment. I'm okay will become, I'm doing all right, just taking things one step at a time. I'm learning will become, I'm gradually developing a stronger understanding of this. I'm scared will become, I'm feeling a bit uneasy about it, but I'm moving forward anyway. These transformations help your mind think naturally in fluent, expressive English. As we move toward the closing moments of this masterclass, I want you to acknowledge how far you've come today. You've listened, repeated, practiced, transformed sentences, explored emotional expression, improved your conversational flow, and strengthened your ability to sound natural and confident in English. Fluency isn't something that happens overnight. It's something you build through repeated exposure, meaningful practice, and gentle, consistent improvement. And today, you've taken another major step on your journey. Before we end, take a deep breath. Notice how your mind feels more familiar with advanced expressions now. Notice how your rhythm feels smoother. Notice how your confidence feels stronger. Learning a language is not only about grammar or vocabulary, it's about connection, expression, and finding your voice. And in this session, you've been practicing all of that. Thank you so much for spending this time learning and growing with me today. Your dedication to mastering advanced English speaking skills is truly inspiring. If you keep practicing a little every single day, there's no doubt you'll reach the level of fluency you dream of. And if you enjoyed today's masterclass and found it helpful, make sure to subscribe and stay connected so you never miss new lessons that can help you grow even faster. Take care, keep practicing, keep believing in your potential, and I'll see you in the next lesson.